So let's get off of it. I've been thinking about this sort of thing for years. Since one Sunday, when one of our members, and I don't even remember who it is, so you're safe, said to me as we walked out of the sanctuary that sometimes after Sunday service, she felt so inadequate about her life and spiritual growth. And my reply was something along the line, oh, please don't feel that way. What you hear on Sunday mornings are suggestions, ideas, techniques for you to use as you progress forward. Don't in any way feel that you are a failure or inadequate where you are right now. Now, what I wish I had also said was the message that I've seen on desk signs, please be patient, God isn't finished with me yet. We are all a work in progress. But I have to admit that I also have times when I'm not pleased by myself. But one Sunday morning several weeks ago, in our spiritually speaking class, the class and Myrtle Fillmore taught me a much better answer than the one I gave that person years ago. And it all starts with perspective. Our discussion led to a change in perspective that really resonated with me. To briefly explain, traditional Christianity may lean toward the concept that we are all sinners who need a belief in Jesus Christ to save us all. Unity's idea is that we're all children of God, made perfect in God's image, and we are attempting to manifest our perfection. Now try this one on for size. We are already perfect because God created us in his or her image. Just as the little acorn that grows into the tree or the tiny flower bud that opens into the perfect flower, we are already perfect. We're just in different stages. We are merely in the process of growing and evolving into our fullness. Now, I have a cactus. It doesn't nearly look as good as that picture that Chris Farashon found for us. But a neighbor gave it to me, and it was a shoot off of her cactus. I'm not sure the exact name of it, but it's from the Queen of the Night family. It does not bloom often. It only blooms at night, and the bloom only lasts for one night. By the time the sun comes up in the morning, the bloom is closing. But before the bloom emerges, there is this excitement and anticipation and joy of imagining it bloom. Remember that. The bud begins on the trunk of the cactus several days before the actual bloom appears. First, a small bud that shows its head against the green cactus. And as the bud increases in size, the stem begins to grow between the cactus and the bud. And each day, the stem and bud noticeably increase in size. Then one evening, it becomes evident that the splendor of the bloom is about to arrive. Likewise, our splendor is becoming. We are already God's perfect expressions. The acorn is no less perfect than the oak tree. The bud is no less perfect than the blooming flower. Likewise, is a baby any less or more of an expression of God than a 6-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 70-year-old? I'm not looking at anyone now, or an 80-year-old. Now, how does that make you feel? I hope good and empowered. It's a tiny shift in perspective, a tiny shift to a life-affirming perspective. The perspective that we are merely continually evolving. So let us start with that perspective and continue to debunk some of the ideas that could get in our way. Here are some suggestions, should you ever feel that your life is inadequate or less than it should be. Most of us are familiar with suggestion number 1, the 3 monsters of woulda, coulda, shoulda. I wish I woulda. I could have done better. I should have done this instead. Now, my answer to that is very simply, we are all doing the best we can with what we have at the time. Do we fault a 1-year-old for not being able to walk 10 miles? Can we fault a person who is new at a job for not being able to complete the same amount of work or the quality of work of someone who has been on the job for 15 years? If we learn something new today, how can we berate ourselves for not using that knowledge or information a year ago? We continue to improve with age, with learning and experience, and we do the best we can at each time. Suggestion number 2. It's great to have goals, but let's be realistic about the time, the sacrifices, the amount of quality work, the years of practice that are necessary to achieve these goals. You know, I consider my grandmother to be the best cook in all the world. Now, I know some of you can argue that, but she's my grandma, so. She raised her own chickens, and they produced the eggs which were used for her homemade noodles and homemade ice cream. Most of the vegetables were from her garden. The milk that went into the homemade ice cream was fresh from the cows that she and Grandpa milked. She put meals on the table for Grandpa and 2 daughters for years. And then, by the time I came along, Grandma never knew exactly sure who might show up for Sunday dinner. Definitely it would be me and her mother, and of course my grandpa, but maybe it would be Mom and Dad, maybe my aunt and uncle and my younger cousin, maybe my older cousin and his girlfriend. And Sunday morning for Grandma started with milking, fixing breakfast, washing dishes with water that she'd carried from practically the barn, then baking 2 pies before she even started with dinner. And Sunday dinner would usually end with Grandpa urging everyone to eat up because he didn't want to eat leftovers all week. Now, can I, who relies upon grocery stores for most of my food supply, who never cook for a family, whose cooking skills generally include putting something edible on the table for myself as quickly as possible, ever really expect to be able to fix a meal as good as my grandma's? It's not going to happen. No way. Remember that people who make the news for achievements have been working for years to reach their goals. Pro athletes have been perfecting their skills since childhood. Authors, and don't let this discourage you, Gay, usually don't have their first book on the bestsellers list. And how many times do they rewrite? There's a lot of trial and error. Those who are professionals in their field are not usually overnight successes, and most have been through several temporary setbacks. So be realistic in your goals. Suggestion number 3, don't compare yourself with others. You are the best person at being you. I remember having 2 friends in college. I had more than 2, but friend A seemed to be most skilled at every sport in which she participated. Every season, every sport, she was the best. Friend C was a very good athlete, but never the best at any of the sports. I remember friend C saying one day, I just wish I could be better at something than she is. Well, she actually was. She was a better student. But the amazing thing was they were and are both great people. Remember, you are the best you in the world. There's no need to compare yourself with someone else. Suggestion number 4, don't forget about the little engine that could. It was a steep climb, but the little engine kept affirming, I think I can, I think I can. I remember several years ago taking a hike with 2 friends to a place called Hanging Lake in Glenwood Canyon, close to Glenwood Springs, Colorado. One of the friends had lived in Vail for several years, and so she was familiar with this place, and she said, you gotta see it, it's just beautiful. So we took off one morning. I remember thinking more than once, this better be good. I remember almost quitting twice and saying, you 2 go on, pick me up on the way back. I remember longing for oxygen. But it was well worth it. Well worth the climb. It was beautiful. We need to keep focused, keep moving forward. Only look backward to see how far you have come. How far have we come already? Only look around to see the beauty of where you are and celebrate your accomplishments, no matter how small. Being kind to yourself is important. There was a study by the universities of Exeter and Oxford has found that taking part in self-compassion exercises calms the heart, switches off the body's threat response. Being kind to yourself helps keep both body and mind strong and healthy. Several years ago, our LUT emeritus, Pat Meter, included in a talk a quote that she had on her bathroom mirror. Someone then made copies of it and placed them on the mirrors in the women's restrooms here at church. I added a couple this morning on the mirrors that didn't have one. Want the guys to see this too. It says, "Hi there, mirror. Look who's here. An unlimited child of God. I am filled with love and light and wisdom and peace. I am a wonderful creation." What a great affirmation to read the first thing in the morning or the last thing before going off to bed. I read a few days ago in Joan Borysenko's book, Pocket Full of Miracles, that the Dalai Lama has said the most important spiritual practice is kindness. Kindness. So, here is a major idea to remember this week. Be as kind and considerate to yourself as you are to others, for we're all continually evolving. And let's take these thoughts into meditation. And as you relax in your chair, let us begin this morning by finding a quiet place where we still our thoughts. Breathe slowly and deeply, in and out at your own pace. No thoughts, no questions, no mind meanderings, no I'm going to's. Just breathing slowly and deeply, in and out at your own paceful pace. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 16, we read, "Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace at all times and in all ways." So be it. Now be in your peaceful place. Be peace. Know that as a bird overcomes gravity to fly, we overcome challenges and circumstances to find our purpose and live from our divine nature. It happens. Without effort, we soften and feel the peace that comes from connecting with our spiritual self. We find our spot in the silence. And as we lift up our consciousness in the grace of God, we draw forth the best outcomes of our life. We renew clarity. We feel our way is assured and our path is clear. We feel that the loving energy guiding us into new opportunities that fulfill the desires of our heart. And we remember that we are being guided. We are not guiding. We accept, we seek, we embrace our guidance. And we continue breathing slowly and deeply in our peaceful place of silence. We feel supported and comforted as we rest in the silence. As we rest in the silence. Divine guidance is always ours when we but ask and be still. The answer comes when we be still. Created perfect, we are but evolving in our perfection. Each day, we continue to evolve into the splendor of the bloom. Whatever roads we travel, whatever our hearts desire, as we turn to spirit, when we are still, divine guidance and peace is always ours. And let us remember the truth of our being. We are already perfect. Just as the acorn that grows into the tree or a flower bud that opens to a beautiful flower is perfect. We are merely evolving in the process of growing, of evolving. And for this knowing, we are eternally grateful. We rejoice in the process and in the knowing of this process, and we go forth this day and all days, knowing this is so for ourselves and for everyone we meet. And we are grateful. Amen and amen. And now